I'm gonna do a quick trading recap today. Huge day, but this may be like a 5 minute video, if not less. So let's get right into it. First thing that I do when I'm looking at the chart, and we're gonna talk about SPY, right? Because that's typically all I trade and ODTEs. So first thing first, I look at the 1 year chart, and on the 1 year chart, I draw my levels. And these are the most crucial levels because they're based off of a year's worth of data. Okay. And I will always work left to right, trying to find common points. An example here, right? Resistance, 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 resistance. And this is roughly at around the 415 level. All right. Then I do the same thing, trying to find areas that have a common theme. Notice over here, it was a resistance, and then over here this level was a support, roughly at around 4 or 436 it looks like, right? And then I just keep working top to bottom, left to right, and I want as little as lines possible. All right, usually on the 1 year chart I want no more than 10 lines, ideally 7 and under. So let's see how many we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're right there at the cusp. All right, 7 and under. Now I color my 1 year chart lines red. Okay. This way I know that it's based off of, again, a year's worth of data. All right. So that means those levels are very well respected. Okay. Then from there, I go to the month. All right. 20 days. All right. There's typically 20 trading days per month, right? We don't count the weekends. So we can see here, I draw in levels that maybe did not show up on the year chart, right? Something a little bit more cleaner, something that I can see, right? And I draw those in. I want clean levels. Now on the month, I want no more than 4, and I'm at 3. 1, 2, 3, and I color these yellow. Okay. So then I do that. And then once I have those lines drawn in, right? And you could really, I mean, this is as clear as day as it gets right here at around 410.79. Look at support, 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 support. And then we have our resistance level. It is as clear as day, all right? This allows me very cleanly, even when I'm looking at this chart, okay, where am I at on the month support or resistance? Where is the next year support or resistance coming up? It just makes it very clean and easy for me to go through. All right. So now let's talk about this trade. So for the past almost week or so, we've been in this range between 411 and 414 and having intermediates between 411 and 412. Okay. Now, then we broke 414, and then guess what? This 415, remember it's red, that came from the year. Okay. So today, when I was looking at my trade, I was looking at, okay, well, we have this 414 as support. 415.5 is roughly a resistance. That's why on my watch list today, and go back and look at my pre-market watch list that I do every single morning right before the market starts for free on my Instagram. And I said, hey, if this breaks 415.25, 415 and a half, I'm looking to take my calls, right? Now, when we're looking at this, once we finally got that break, I mean, this thing rocketed. And I use other indicators to help me stay in on the trade. I use levels as a really good guide, but then indicators to help me stay in on the trade. So I took the trade today. I didn't wait to this portion. I was looking at 415 exactly because here pre-market you could kind of see it was holding as support, and as we were getting into the open, it was kind of serving as a little bit of resistance. So I said, okay, if it could break 415, ideally 415.25, I'm looking to take my trade. So I got in right on this candle once it started to break. Then I got stuck in a sideways move. Okay, this was not chill. This was not cool. Now, the reason though I didn't panic is because I had my stop set at around 414.8. Okay. That's where I was looking to see, okay, if it hits 414.8, I will consider to get out of my trade. Okay, consider being the key word here. Now, as we can see, the next candles don't quite hit it. They stay in the range. And the reason I stay in as well is they hold the 9 EMA support. Okay, that is what was giving me confidence. They were hovering so closely. Now, this candle, on its low, it came to 414.8. Now, the reason I didn't get out is because as soon as it touched it, as soon as it touched it, it went right back up immediately. Not even like a 5 second gap. It touched and it went right back up. So I was like, you know what? We may be at support here. And I even said during the trading today that if I really wanted to be a little bit more conservative, I would put my stop right at around 414.6, which is kind of the support here on pre-market. You can kind of see it work left to right. So as soon as it touched, I was like, oh, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. I'm waiting. I'm staying patient, right? And I was already patient 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes into my trade of it not working well. This is one of the most important things as a trader is just because a trade may not be working in your favor, so long as you're within your risk tolerance and you properly sized and manage risk, there's nothing to worry about, right? We, as a good trader, we plan to lose money. We understand what that potential is going to be. We plan for the loss, not the win, right? Now, as this came down and hit, it bounced right back up. And look how it closed. It closed right above the 9 EMA, right below the 20. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to wait now. I'm just going to wait. There's no reason for me to just panic. I'm just going to sit back and wait. So this candle, even though it closed red, I'm not panicked. It's obviously 414.8 is holding support. So I have a good support. Then we get this nice big candle. This was the home run. Hits and breaks. Once I saw it break above the 50 EMA and our resistance level, I knew it was going to be off to the races. So once I break resistance, the next thing is, okay, well, where's my next target going to be? Where is my next area that I can maybe see some things happening? And this shot all the way up. It stayed above the 9. But then what I started to notice, even a little bit here, you can argue here starts to be a little bit of resistance, but it wasn't until here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 touches at around 418. Okay, so once it started to come within here, I was like, all right, I'm going to start to take a little bit of profit. Now, mind you, this entire trade I am holding. Why am I holding, Drew? The reason I'm holding, this is holding above the 9 EMA the entire freaking time. Okay, now holds the 9 EMA, holds the 9 EMA. Guess what? Comes back to resistance. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 touches at 418, and we cannot break it. Okay, so trade number 1 was calls. Once this finally broke and had some strong volume going into this, and I use my volume indicator here to help me. This is a custom study that I have made that helps me define volume. Also on the current bar, the difference between sellers and buyers. So once I was looking at this and I saw, look at this spike in volume in comparison to all of this. Once this volume kicked in, I was like, okay, we're coming down. We are coming down. We're at resistance. We haven't broke it. We are coming down. I took a put trade. Okay, so I got out of my calls. I took a put trade and I rode these down. Now that this was my resistance, I wanted to see if we came and touched back to support. We did not quite get there. We got very close here on this candle, but it was enough for me to take profit as we got close. This was like north of like 100% return. And then was the mega trade. Okay, now I missed out on this mega trade. And actually, look at it hits here and it actually does come all the way back down to the support level that we had earlier, right? Very key level. And this level, remind you again, came from the year. Now, I missed out on this big, gigantic move later on in the day that just completely rocketed. I was out to lunch, and some of the things that I would have looked at is, to be honest, I wouldn't have got here right at support. I like to wait for confirmation because notice here we kind of go sideways, come up, and then come right back down, right? So what I would have probably waited for, looking at this from a realistic perspective, I would have probably gotten on this candle here because this would be the first candle that is breaking the previous high from, hours ago, right? And now maybe start to get some movement. And then once it hit this resistance that we had earlier, this is where I would have looked to take a little bit of profit. And then once it broke, then, we're off to the races. But this is so close to the end of the day. But hindsight 2020, This was a beautiful move. But I did capture this full call move all the way up to 418 from 415, which was a fantastic move. I caught this put move here, and it worked out. The first 2 hours or so, I was roughly around here. That's what I show on there. And then as it started to play out, just beautiful trade. I'm trying to think if there was something else I wanted to cover for you guys. I think that's it. Oh, no, there is. Now, mind you, I am not watching the chart all day. Okay? So when I'm looking at this, what I tend to do is make alerts. And how I do that is I just right click. So let's just say, 418 was resistance. Now let's say it came down and I see it's coming up and I'm like, you know what? I maybe don't want to trade until I get the break of 418. I'm just using this as an example. I am going to right click on here and go to create alert and say at or above 418, ping me. Now that it creates that, now I have that alert set. So if it ever breaks 418, like if it was down here and then it finally breaks 418, it's going to ping my phone, and then I could, guess what, look at my charts and be ready. So one of the most advantageous things that I do is I set these alerts regularly, because I do not want to be managing and looking at the charts all day long. Even on this put trade, once I saw we were kind of hovering at 418, what I did was set an alert for about 417 and a half, because that's a 50-cent drop, right? So I was like, create alert at or below 417.5, ping me. And sure enough, what does it do? It pings me. And then at that point, I'm able to capitalize on the move right before the move starts to happen, right? I'm right there with enough time for me to respond, right? So these alerts, when you start to notice key levels, I set my alerts at those key levels because those are going to be the determining factors, right? So anyway, that's the breakdown for the day. Took this trade, stayed patient in the trade. Within the first 2 hours of the day, I was up about 26 G's. By the time it went up to here, I was up, I think it was like 60 something G's by the time I was done. And then I caught the put trade on the way down. It was a beautiful day. Beautiful day. Ended up walking out with $109,000. And a lot of people made really good money. So what determines you being successful or not is risk management. Okay, managing your risk, properly sizing, understanding how to read the charts. Trading really just comes down to two things. Number one, being able to find a high probability setup. And what that means is you do all your technicals, you do all the things that are necessary, see where you're at, what are the scenarios that could play out, where's your entry, where's your exit, where's your stop, all that stuff. Finding a high probability setup. Number two, mitigating risk. That is it. Properly sizing, understanding your total account size, making sure you don't lose more than 5% of your total account on any one day, and just sticking to discipline. That is it. Now, it's easier said than done because fear, well, one, ego, greed, and fear get in the way, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed this recap, and I will see you on the next day.